Hey there, beautiful teachers. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about stuff that we do at the end of the year to wrap everything up neatly in a bow. So we're going to be going into studio newsletters, sending out information to your parents, whether you send out hard copies, anything like that. Some fun extras that I'm including in my students' packets this year, as well as how to set up enrollment forms if you need to do them online. All of those kinds of details, that's what we're going to be chatting about today. So let's get started. Well, hello there to everyone watching live. So great to have so many of you back here again. I see Janelle is here. Great to see you here, Janelle. Charlotte, Claire, awesome stuff. Everyone who's watching, please do add your hellos into the comments. Even if you're watching on the replay, I'd love to hear from you. And let me know what you're doing at the end of the year. Is this the end of your year? Some of you may be in Oz. It's quite late, so I don't think so. Most of you, I think, are over here in this hemisphere with me, in the US or Canada or over here in Europe. So if that's the case, we're starting to wrap up, aren't we? Or we're starting to transition to a summer period if we teach a lot during the summer. So I have about 4 weeks left of lessons right now. And that's why I wanted to hop on here to talk through what I'm doing to wrap things up, how the end of the year looks in my studio normally, and what's different right now in this current situation we all find ourselves in. Ireland is still completely on lockdown, so I'm right there in the boat with you if that's where you're at right now. But yeah, we're going to dive into all of that good stuff that we need to do during the end of the year period. And if you are listening to this and you're not about to finish your year, think about this as forward thinking for when you do. Before we dive into any of that, a couple of bits of housekeeping. First of all, if you need access to resources, we have them ready for you. Go to vibrantmusicteaching.com and use the coupon code online when signing up for a monthly membership, and you will get a $1 1-week trial. We're going to continue that until the end of the academic year, so that teachers can get access to the resources that they need right now. We also are doing these chats 3 times a week, at least until the end of this academic year. So that's the end of June for me. As I mentioned, I have 4 weeks left. So at least another 4 weeks. We'll keep going with this schedule and then we might chop it down a bit. We'll see how we go during the summer. But today is also Friday. Did you know that? It's Friday. It's hard to keep track of days for a lot of people right now. Although for us, we need to keep a pretty tight schedule going if we're teaching still regular hours. Anyway, it is Friday. I can assure you of that. I'm pretty certain. I've checked with my calendar. And since it is Friday, here on the Vibrant Music Teacher Chat, I want to hear your suggestions for topics for next week. What do you want to hear about? We already had suggestions earlier in the week that you'd like to hear more about my chord teaching process that I'm doing at the moment, so that might be one of the topics, but I'm open to anything that you want us to chat about. So let me know what you think, what you want to learn, what you want to hear about, what you want to join together as a community about. Let me know your suggestions in the chat today. And as always, make sure you hit that like button if you're enjoying today's video. So we're going to be diving into everything that I'm putting in these end of year packets. So first, just a few details about what this even is, what I'm doing here, right? For me, I decided, okay, so normally, let's go back to 2019, shall we? Normally, I would be giving out an envelope to my students to give to their parents at around this time of year with fun stuff, which we'll get to in a second, calendar policies and fees for next year, a sheet on that to give them the new information, a newsletter to wrap up this year, and enrollment forms for next year. Yes, physical enrollment forms. That's last year and every year before that since I've been teaching full time. this year, I still want to give them some physical stuff. I am putting some of it online. For instance, I'm doing my enrollment forms online instead of a physical hard copy, which, I'll get over. But I am still giving them some stuff. And the main reason that is definitely going ahead and that I didn't do all digital stuff is because of our composition book. So I don't have the new one yet to show you guys, but this is basically what it will look like. This is our previous one. So that's the Circus Collective composing book, and this is where students, this was actually a really fun one because I got them to do drawings. Let me show you this on the overhead cam. So this is our previous composition book, and you'll see there's some drawings. So students did drawings. Whoops, didn't move the mic. Students did drawings to go with their circus compositions, right? So that's the kind of composing project that we normally do. That's the more regular one. This year we did the collaborative composing project, and that was a little bit different because students passed the compositions along, but we're still putting it together as our book. So that is coming soon. It's got monsters on the cover. It might even arrive like right while I'm doing this broadcast. That's how down to the wire we are. That it was almost, because it's arriving today and it's a very reliable print company, so it'll probably be here just after I finish the broadcast. But hey, that's Murphy's Law. Anyway, that is basically what it looks like. Glad you like it, Laurie. Thank you. Yeah, we have a lot of fun putting these together, and it's a big feature of our studio. It's something I love doing every year, this big composing project every March. It takes a lot of time out of our lessons for sure, but it's well worthwhile. They learn a huge amount of theory and they get the pride of having these books, and it's a great memento from each year rather than having a certificate or something from the recital. That's my sort of gift to them, if you want to consider it that way, although I don't really think about it in those terms. So that is going out to students anyway, since we did a composing project. So since we were already doing a delivery, I am putting in a couple of other things in hard copy. The next thing that will go in their envelope, and you can let me know if you have any questions. I've seen some lovely comments coming through, but no questions so far, I think, guys. Yeah. Sharon, welcome back. Great to have you here on 2 in a row. Yeah, that's awesome. So the next thing that's going in is this. This is our newsletter. I do one of these every year. I know some teachers do them every month. I would find that just too much. But because I do it only once a year, I can make a bigger deal out of it, and I can put a bit more effort into it. So I really enjoy putting those together. It's a great opportunity for us to look back. If you've never done a newsletter, it's really, you have to think back until the beginning of the year, until September for me, and say, okay, what is everything we've done? What do I want to highlight? And some cool stuff has always happened, and you need to remind parents of that, and celebrate together. Celebrate it for yourself, for your own good as well. So this is what our newsletter looks like this year, and it's got a little letter straight to parents on the front that just, dear parents, we've had an unusual year, blah, yada yada yada. So that's just a note from me. And then on the inside, let's do this on the overhead cam too, shall we? So on the inside, we've got this. So there's different features here. This follows a fairly similar format each time. So I've got, over on this side, I always do student achievements, and I give each student a shout out. So each student, to say, I won't read any names, but X has gone from strength to strength this year as she moved into level 2 of her book. So it's just one sentence, 2 lines, about each student and something that they achieved this year. And then over this side, at the top there, you'll have 2 different concerts. So we had Blitz and Bash back in January in person. And then we had the Comfy Couch concert, which we did last week. And I detailed all about what we did for that in our stream on Monday, if you want to go back and check that out. And then I've got some photos and our collaborative compositions project, which is the book that I just told you about. And then the group workshops, and that talks about our regular group workshops, which is like the Beethoven one that's in person. And then our online versions, which we've transitioned to now, Practice with Pals. Then on the back of the newsletter, I always have a lifelong learning spot where I talk about any events I've been to, what I've been learning, what courses I've taken, anything like that. So this year I went to 2 different conferences and several different workshops, so I detailed that just briefly. Look, I'm still learning too, kind of thing. And then coming up next year, it's quite a big chunk there, and then just a thank you at the end, right? So that's everything that goes into my newsletter. And like I say, I enjoy putting it together. I do put a fair amount of work into that, as I think you can see. But I think it's well worth it. On the front, we would normally have a wonderful group recital shot here. Instead, we have screenshots of all the different students and me and the 2 teachers as well from our recital, which is fun. It's still a fun way to do it. So, yeah, tell me if you do newsletters. Tell me what goes in them. Tell me if you're one of my heroes that does one every month. That would be too much for me, but let me know if you do and if you find it to be valuable. Yeah. Great stuff. Claire, you're going to start the composing project this week. That's awesome. That's great. Okay, there's one more thing that's going to the physical envelopes. And that is my little card. So members might have seen these already. So these, I've called them Color to Confidence cards. I told you there's a lot of names for these. Basically, they're coloring affirmation cards. So they are black and white. The students will get them like this. And they need to color them in themselves. And it's worded as if they're saying the thing. Okay, so it's an affirmation, but kid-friendly. And then inside I have a little message, nothing in this one, but inside all of my students have a little message from me saying what they did great this year. So I'll show you these on screen actually. Like I say, some members may have seen these in the library. If not, you can go and grab them there now. That's just an info page. And then we have 8 different cards. And each one also has a card back. So these look like blank pages here. But if I click in there, and actually they'll show up as a box for you, I can say, Dear student, you're amazing, or whatever I want to say, details about accomplishments, and then, you at the end there, right? So you can type into them, or you can just print them out and fill them out by hand. Typing was definitely preferable for me. That was a lot of kids. I think I did 37 cards the other day. And it definitely does help to be able to copy paste different parts of them, but still make it relevant and personal to each student. So that is going into their packet as well. So each student is getting an A4 envelope. It'll have their composing book, their newsletter for their parents. I mean, it's for them too. They do look at it, but it's really for the parents. And then a card in an envelope. And I did write their name by hand, right? So each student knows that, I see them. Even the ones who are not my students, who are working with other teachers, I see them. I see what they're doing, and that their hard work is not going unnoticed. Yes, this is a cheesy concept. I have made no bones about it. I know it's cheesy, but I like a bit of cheese. I mean, I really love cheese. But I do like a bit of cheesiness. And so they say things like, I am awesome, I'm creative. Can I see that one? I use patience. I started colouring some of them just a little bit so you can see them start to come to life. This one says, I persevere, but it's nice and small. So it's kind of hidden into the drawings. And then this one I started to colour a little bit as well. I can do hard things. So there's 8 different designs of them. And like I say, members can find them in the library if you want to send them out to your students too. If you love a bit of cheese too, go for it. I think it's going to be a fun little feature. And kids still love getting posts, don't they? Things that are actually addressed to them or actually for them in the post. And I think it's extra special right now. So next week, my husband and I will be heading out on several days of delivering these around our neighbourhood and several neighbourhoods beyond where my students live. Of course we could have posted them, but we like walking. So we'll be heading out and delivering all of those next week. I'm really looking forward to getting them into students' hands. And at the same time, I'm sort of preparing everything around this. So when I do this sort of end of year stuff, a lot of things need to happen together. And so they will be getting this, and then shortly after that, I want them to get the enrollment forms and the information for next year. I want the things to go together so that fresh on their mind is how fantastic their experience is at Colourful Keys. And then they're deciding whether to enroll for next year, put down their registration fee, and reserve their spot. Okay? So that's, the two things coming together, just a little bit of a nudge to increase re-enrollment. Obviously, I would hope that it would be fairly high anyway, because they do know and value the experience of next year. But there's no harm in giving it that little nudge so that they have it top of mind. You know, there's a lot of different activities on kids' schedules, and there's a lot of different things going on, especially right now. So just having that information, laying it all out in something like a newsletter, it can be digital, so that they can immediately say to themselves, oh yeah, you know what, piano lessons are expensive, because they are. If you're teaching private lessons, they are not cheap. In comparison to other activities, we cannot compete on price. So we have to provide enormous value to our students. Birgit, great question. Did you print the newsletter yourself or on your printer? Can you recommend a service online? I'm going to try and keep this brief. It is a great question, but there's kind of a whole story here, Birgit. Okay, so normally, last year, I printed it myself with my printer, right here, just regularly, okay? This year, I changed, literally, I think that was like a couple of weeks before the lockdown. Anyway, so hard to keep track of that stuff. At some stage before lockdown happened, fairly recently, I changed printer to a different printer of about the same age. That's a long story. I won't get into it. But this different, almost identical printer has a different type of A3 printing, meaning my old one, you could put the A3 sheets in the tray. The new one, you have to feed them in the back. Okay? Like I said, this is not a particularly interesting story, but just so you know where I'm coming from. So because of that, it was going to take way too long for me to print this many newsletters. So I actually did get them printed this year. And the reason I didn't just print them A4 is because I already started the design as normal, forgetting that my printer was different. Okay? So I think it's perfectly fine to do an A4 one and print it yourself, is the moral of the story. But I didn't, because I normally have an A3 printer that does this very neatly and easily. And I forgot that I didn't have that anymore. So I ended up sending them to my local office supply store. They are wonderful. And yeah, the print quality is a little bit better too, so that's nice. But I don't think they have to be professionally printed at all. Laurie, are my enrollment forms for studio lessons or online lessons? Studio lessons, although if we had exclusive online students, it would be the same for them. Michael, is this newsletter sort of like a studio yearbook? I mean, kind of, but it's a newsletter. Meaning it's only 4 pages, right? So I wouldn't really consider it like a yearbook. It's not like we have features about every single thing that happens or student submissions. It's not what I think of as a yearbook, but you could think of it like that if you like. Okay. Right, you guys are curious about the enrollment forms. A couple of questions like that, about that. So I'm going to show you them, okay? I have them up on screen. Okay. Do I? Yes, I do. That was weird. Okay, so this is my new enrollment form. My old ones are physical enrollment forms, and I still... I'm so reluctant about this tech change, if I'm honest. I don't want to do it, but it is the most sensible option right now. And people have been saying this to me Every time I bring up enrollment forms, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm sure you use an online system. Like, I have to be like, no, this is one of the things I do with paper, and I still love the paper. There's several reasons. I think people put more thought into things that they write by hand. In fact, there is science to say that that's true. But the main aspects of it are this scheduling part and the signing part. That's why I like doing it with paper, because I think, I know, I mean, you do it too, right? You tick all sorts of boxes and don't read the thing, and then get upset later if someone uses that as you giving consent because you didn't read the thing. Of course you didn't. We can't read all the stuff that's thrown at us online. And so having it as a physical form that they have to sign, I believe, makes them take the policies more seriously and makes them make these kinds of decisions, the video consent and the photo consent, more consciously. And that's what I want. I don't want to pull wool over people's eyes. I want them to make decisions properly. So anyway, that's my rant about that. But I am doing it online this year, and I will come around to it, I'm sure. There are definitely aspects of this that will be better. So I'll talk through those. This was built using gravity forms. That's because I already have gravity forms. That's not because I particularly recommend that, although it works perfectly fine. There are many form plugins, and there's like Google Forms and stuff. I already had gravity forms installed on my site, so it's nice and easy for me to do. And the other thing versus Google Forms is I couldn't figure out a way to do this on Google Forms, which is have everything pre-selected. I'll get to that in just a moment, why I do that. But up the top here, we just have some basic information, so parent information, their address, student information. Yes, I make returning students fill all that out again because I just want to make sure it's actually up to date, and people will just go, oh yeah, we did move last year. So I just like to have them fill it out again. It only takes 2 seconds, especially if they're doing it online. Most people will have autofill on in their browser anyway. So this form is entirely for re-enrolling students, returning students. It is not for new students. Those people who want to be new students, they apply to a waiting list. That's a separate form. It's much shorter. And they don't fill this in until they're actually accepted or they're a returning student. So this is what I'm sending to the returning students who want to re-enroll for next year. So they have all that basic information. Then they have the studio location, because the other teachers teach at students' homes. So that changes between the type of lessons that are relevant. We only teach solo lessons at home. Studio lessons could be 60-minute buddy lessons. That's the most common, so that's at the top, etc., etc., etc. Different types of lessons. Then this, I would normally have, I'll show you in a second, but I'd have on my paper form, many of you will have seen it, I have, cross out all the times that will not work for you. And so this is similar here. So they're going to deselect all the times that will not work for you. So this is the part that on Google Forms I couldn't do. I couldn't have it pre-select, or at least maybe some Google Forms whiz can do it, but I couldn't figure out a way to make it pre-select all of the boxes so that they had to uncheck the ones they don't want. I know this looks tedious. I know it looks like I'm being a bit annoying, okay? But no parent has ever really complained to me about it. And I do think it increases the likelihood that they'll actually untick the ones they don't want rather than just selecting one that they do want. I want Wednesday at 3. Well, what if you can't have Wednesday at 3, right? So I really want to have the maximum availability open to me, especially with all the buddy lesson scheduling I do. I need as much flexibility as possible. After that, we have notes about scheduling. So if they say, some of them will write in that space on the physical forms. In the past they would write, well, you didn't have 3:15 selected, so I selected 3:30, but if you want to do 3:15 like we had last year, that's okay still, kind of thing. So little notes like that they can make, or please put our siblings back to back, that kind of thing. Then we have the video consent and the photo consent. and then the policies, and I've linked to both of our policies there, and they need to agree to that, and they need to pay the registration fee. So this is one thing that's actually better in an online form, because although I tell them to attach the fee to the form, some of them inevitably every year give me one separately from the other, and I really want them to be together. So with this system, they can't submit the form without paying the registration fee, and they can't pay the registration fee anywhere else, so they have to fill in the form, right? So the two are tied together, and that is going to be super duper handy. Just checking in with the chat here, a few questions. Sharon, I'm hesitant to charge a registration fee because I've never done one. Every year I try to figure out how to implement it, but then I just skip it. Okay. There's no magic way to implement it, you just implement it. Mine used to be called a materials fee, and then it was called a registration and materials fee, and now I just call it the registration fee and say that our studio is all inclusive. And that's really where it came from. It was originally a materials fee that they paid in advance. And if that's one way to wedge it in, to get it in there if you want to. I do find it to be a great way to make sure people really commit to holding their spot, and that if they do back out at the last minute, at least they've paid for, a couple of lessons worth or so that you can take that time, find someone from your waiting list, or fill the spot in, by advertising, that kind of thing. Yes, Helen. A lot of teachers have picked up on that over the years. Oh yeah, you've reminded me. So let's look at a previous form. Oh, that's not a good example. That was a new student. Here's a returning student. Just fold that over so you guys can't see the name. Okay, so that's what it looks like, right? So it's all these boxes normally, and they have to cross out the ones that won't work. So they've crossed out quite a lot of the week, but I guarantee you that if I did not do it this way, this student would have just ticked their favourite spot, which was 5 p.m. on a Friday. That's what they would have done. And I'm not like, oh, parents are evil. People just don't think about it that thoroughly, and they're not going to. And you have to set it up in a way that makes things work for you and is minimal fuss for them at the same time. So that's the way I do it. So that's the way we're going to go with it online. We'll see if anyone comes back to me and said it was so annoying to untick all those boxes. I hope not. Okay. Helen, does the registration fee include music and other fees? I think you mean books, and if so, yes. As I said, it used to be called a materials fee, so really it's just a registration fee. My fees are just all inclusive. That's the way it actually works now. But so that's the best way to explain it to you, is everything is included. The only thing they ever have to pay extra for is exam fees, and that's because not a lot of students take exams. It wouldn't make sense for everyone to pay at a rate which includes the exam fees because they are quite high. So that's an optional extra. But no student is ever forced to take an exam either. But the books, folders, games I lend to them, all of that is factored into my tuition. That is the way I work. And it keeps things simple for the parents and simple for me, and I love it. And we have a recent blog post about that. If you want to go over to the Colourful Keys blog, Helen, you will see a post there about all-inclusive tuition. Yeah, it's funny. People do expect them. She said I charged a registration fee for the first time this year. No one said a word about it. Yeah, people often don't. Some might, especially if it's quite a high one. But in general, people expect them. Like it's part of most activities that kids do, that they have a registration fee to enroll, or an enrollment fee or an admin fee or something like that. And so it does make a lot of sense to bring one in, if it's something you think might be helpful for you. So that's basically what's going out to students. That's my enrollment form. The last thing I wanted to show you on screen, and you guys can let me know if you have questions about this. That's the wrong direction, guys. That is a surprise starter. This way. this is what I was going to show you. So this is the email that is going to go out to parents, and it is going to load for us. That would be nice. So this is just a preview because I haven't scheduled this yet. I haven't sent it out yet. I want them ideally to all get the newsletter and cards and those packages first before they get this email. So this will go out next week once we've done all our deliveries. So that's just a summary about what our plans are vis-a-vis COVID and opening the studio again. That'll be different for everyone. Calendar, policies and fees. So as I do walk the walk, I'm always telling teachers not to apologise or explain their fees, and I absolutely have not done that here either. So it just says download copy of the fees, but it does put in this caveat about, or not even a caveat, but also a note about our scholarship information in case anyone is struggling financially with our current economic crisis. Then we have the enrollment form, so the link to the enrollment form that I just showed you, and a few details about choosing their lesson format and all of that. Then we have the studio survey. So I can do a separate one about surveys and stuff if people are interested in that, but we'll skip it for now. I'll just let you know that I have a quick survey for them to fill out about how happy they are with this year and stuff like that. And then we have a call out to review on Google. Good to do that every so often. Some summer lesson options. This is a big email, by the way. I don't send long emails like this often at all because I don't like overwhelming people with long pieces like this. And there will be subsequent reminders to this as well. There's a link to a digital copy of the newsletter and also just a reminder that they have received it in case they need to go, oh, right, yeah, the post box, right, and go ahead and check it. And then just thank you and goodbye. So that's the email that they're going to get. They're going to get that next week after we've sent out all of the stuffs, right? After they've received their newsletter, hard copy, their book, which will look different to this book. That's from 2 years ago. And then the kiddo will get a card. Obviously a separate card for each kid if there are several siblings, which we have a lot of in our studio. So that was fun to organise. Do you know that I have 5 Emmas in my studio? 5 Emmas. So I had to make sure that the card was grouped with their sibling, if they have a sibling, to make sure it went in the right person's thing and I didn't refer to like the wrong Emma's thing. Because I'm not going to use their surname on the card because that looks impersonal. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. I got through it. We survived the Emmas. Okay. I was checking in with the chat there, so a few things come through. Hey Janelle, great to see you here. Jonelle, I didn't charge a registration fee in years past, but for new students brought it on this year, charged them 1, no one complained. Charging the fee to all to reserve their spots for the fall. Great option, great thing to do. Yeah, Helen, tracking the music, especially if you're buying it for students and they're reimbursing you, it's just something teachers shouldn't be spending their time doing. It'll average out across your students. Just flatten your fees. Everyone flatten your fees. It has saved me so many headaches. Also, the other option is to get parents to buy their music and then they'll buy the wrong thing. They won't buy it on time. It won't be ready. The delivery won't arrive. Much easier if the responsibility is on you and you can stay organised and ahead of the game on the books, I think. Kerry, great to see you've jumped on the registration fee bandwagon too. It's great. Really makes a world of difference. Okay, Lynn is interested in hearing about the surveys. That's good to know. I have used MailChimp for my enrollment email to returning students. Sorry, bring that up on screen so I'm not just waffling. One has the PDF of my updates to policies to read, and the other, the online enrollment form. Yeah, you can definitely separate this stuff off. I've gone for one big email this time. I tend to sort of mix and match what types of emails I do. sometimes I just have a lot to say and it's easier for everyone to have one spot to look at it all. And the ones who miss bits and pieces, there's really only one really key bit of information there, which is enrollment form, and that is at the top. So the other stuff is all really supporting that. But yeah, email design is an interesting thing. Lynn, I had a comment about my cup on Wednesday from Brock as well. I'm so glad you all appreciate it because it was a gift, as I said last time, from my mother. So I better tell her that the next time I see her. Carrie, you're funny. We do have exceptional mugs. People come to our house and are making tea because we're Irish, so people make tea all the time, and they always comment about our mugs. Yeah, it is true. We have good mugs here. Okay. Thank you all so much for joining me. We're going to wrap it up soon, but I do want to hear your suggestions for next week. So, we are going live 3 times a week to bring our community together, to provide you with resources and ideas and just commiserations if you need them sometimes as we all navigate this whole pandemic online teaching saga. So, you can catch us here in the afternoon 3 days a week in European time, or early in the morning over in the US and Canada. So Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. And tell me what you want to hear about next week. I have 2 suggestions so far. I have surveys, parent surveys, and talking more about that. And then we have the chords suggestion to detail how I'm teaching chords at the moment in my buddy lessons. I'm happy to talk about anything else you need to hear about. Otherwise, I can come up with some creative ideas myself, of course. But I like to focus in on the things that you guys actually want to hear about, obviously. Because otherwise, it's just me talking to an empty room. Like, that's all that's happening if you don't show up. And you won't show up if you're not interested in the topics. So, yeah, let me know what you want to hear about, whether you're watching live or on the replay. I hope you all have a wonderful, awesome lesson. Oh, so, not lesson, I was going to say weekend, but I got distracted. Helen, I'd love to hear you talk about bringing teachers in. Do you mean bringing teachers on? Like, do you mean my extra teachers? I can talk about that for sure, if that's what you mean there. Oh yeah, sorry, Carrie mentioned the same thing. Okay, so that's an interesting one. Definitely something I could go into. Yeah. That's a good idea. Parent surveys, bringing other teachers on. Laurie seconded the chords, circle of fifths idea. We can talk about that. More details about the composing. I did do a lot of stuff, Linda, on the composing when I did the full walkthrough of the collaboration project. If you saw that and you still have questions, let me know what specifically you want me to look at. If you didn't see that, go back and check out that one. Laurie, write up for parents about buddy lesson pros and cons. I think that's better covered in the blog post we did about that. So if you search for buddy lesson logistics in Google, it's an unusual phrase, so it should pop up right there, our post from Colourful Keys about that. Bonnie, same suggestion to go back and check our previous post about our previous chat about the composing project that I did online, because that has a lot of tips in general for teaching composing. But again, if you have follow-ups to that, let me know. And Charlotte, letting go of students that aren't working for you and you would rather not teach next year. Okay, lots of great lots of great ideas. I was totally distracted by this. Sorry for getting distracted twice today. Laurie, what does days 1 mean on your VMT? I don't know what that is, Laurie. Can you let me know? And I'll follow up with you. Because I'm really curious. Days 1. No, I don't know. Let me know what that means. That's very cryptic. Okay, thank you all so much again for joining me. It's been wonderful to hang out with you, and if you enjoyed hanging out with me, I hope you did. If you like my cute coffee cups, if you like my pink shelves, or if you like the teaching advice that I give out, then please hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel while you're here. I'm looking forward to joining you again next Monday with some of these topics that you're suggesting today. And I hope you all have a fabulous Wibson. I don't know what that is. Fabulous weekend. And enjoy some outside time if you can get out away from the screens over the weekend. I certainly will be doing that as we start to deliver some of these fabulous packages to students. That's it for now, guys. I'll chat to you next time. Bye for now.